Minecraft is a fascinating game. Huge mountains, wide open plains, and an entire world that can be shaped on the player's whim. Yet, Minecraft's segmented development history has left some aspects of the game overlooked. I've been playing Minecraft for 13 years now. Over time, I've developed a good understanding of how Minecraft is developed, including getting multiple ideas added to the game. That's why I put together a collection of over 100 ideas I believe could improve the Minecraft experience. Today we continue our journey exploring these ideas. This is the list. Add dust devils to Minecraft, which makes sand renewable. Dust devils are short-lived whirlwinds. They would occasionally spawn in deserts and Badlands biomes. Dust devils would do two things. Number one, they would launch any player that entered the whirlwind into the air, and number two, they would throw out sand blocks as items in all directions. This would allow the player to build contraptions to harvest sand automatically and passively in deserts or badlands. Things like walls would stop the sand, which would then ride down the wall, being directed into a water stream and collected, for example. The whirlwinds could also randomly spawn in deserts, appearing for a few minutes at a time before dissipating. The whirlwinds I'm imagining here would be larger than this example, and throw out quite a decent amount of sand. This, in my view, is a much more interesting way to harvest sand than other suggestions, because we get renewable sand as well as a cool player movement mechanic and an atmospheric effect. Remove the ability to shift to avoid damage while standing on Magma Blocks. It weakens the Frostwalker enchantment, which is already weak enough, and it doesn't make sense why you would not take damage when standing on Magma Blocks with your bare feet. Fire Resistance Potion's ability to reduce damage on Magma Blocks is already enough and will remain unchanged in this scenario. Add basic seasons to Minecraft. The seasons would be spring, summer, fall, and winter. Each season would last 90 in-game days by default and could be turned on or off via a game rule. Seasons would have the following global effects. First off, crops would grow 33% slower during the winter season and 33% faster during the summer. Fall and spring crop growth rates would remain the same as they exist currently. An important note here, this would affect crops in all biomes, but would only affect crops which have direct sky access. This means if you have a farm outside, it's affected by the seasons, but farms inside, or in a cave or with the roof above them, for example, would be unaffected by the season. Additionally, another global effect would be day and night cycle changes. Spring and fall would have the same day and night cycle as currently exists in Minecraft of 10 minutes of day and 10 minutes of night, but in the summer you'd have 2 additional minutes of day and 2 minutes less of night, while in the winter that would be reversed. You'd have 8 minutes of day and 12 minutes of night. This means players might choose to go exploring more during the summer when there's more daylight, and stay closer to home during the winter where there's less. These are the only global attributes, but there would be additional special seasonal attributes that happen during specific seasons. In springtime, flowers and leaves would have pollen particles occasionally fall from them. Bee nests would have a 4 times greater chance to spawn in trees that grow next to flowers during springtime, which would mean the percentage chance of getting a bee nest would rise to 20% rather than the current 5%. Snow, which accumulated during winter months in moderate temperature biomes like forest and plains, would melt when spring arrives. And bred animals would have a 50% chance to have 2 offspring instead of 1. This would make it more beneficial to breed animals during springtime than other seasons. During the summer season, tree-attached birch, oak, and dark oak leaves would slightly change color to be slightly more green. This would be done via a leaf color attribute. Additionally, fireflies would appear in summer as a particle effect cloud in swamps and mangrove swamps. These fireflies would not act as individual mobs, but instead as a cloud effect. You could right-click on the cloud of fireflies with an empty bottle to get a bottle of firefly. That bottle of firefly could then be placed in the world as a light source. You could also shift right-click with the bottle to place a new cloud of firefly elsewhere in the world. The cloud of firefly would only be visible at night. During fall season, tree-attached birch, oak, and dark oak leaves would have a color attribute with a chance to change to either red, yellow, orange, or brown colored leaves. Only leaves attached to natural trees will change color. Leaves that are harvested by players in the fall with colors will maintain their colors when placed by the player even if the season has changed. Additionally, leaf particles will now fall from trees, visually only during fall season, similar to how leaves fall from pale garden trees as of 121.4. And last but certainly not least, the winter special season attributes. Snow would be able to fall and accumulate one layer in all moderate temperature biomes, like forests and plains for example. Crop growth, as mentioned, would be reduced by 33% if crops have direct access to the sky. Ice could also form in moderate temperature biomes during winter, which would then melt during the springtime. Leaves in cold and temperate biomes would also turn snowy whenever snow began to fall in that biome. This is already the case for some biomes, as you can see here in Minecraft Bedrock Edition. Also, snow particles would fall from trees with snowy leaves. Add new variations of diorite, andesite, granite, and other blocks. New block variety is almost always welcomed by players, which makes it all the more curious as to why Mojang have not created more varieties of andesite, diorite, and granite blocks. Compared to other overworld blocks like stone, tuff, or deep slate, these blocks are sorely lacking in block variety. Take a look at this image. Here's what a fully fleshed out version of these blocks could look like. We have the regular granite, diorite, andesite on the far left column, followed by a new smooth variant of andesite, diorite, and granite. Then the polished variants, which already exist in the third column. This is then followed by a column of granite, diorite, and andesite bricks, then cracked bricks, tiles of each type, and finally pillars of each. That's 5 new variants for these blocks. But why stop there? What about other blocks? For that, we need to butcher a Beach Boys song from 1966. Wouldn't it be nice if we had soul sand blocks to play around with and explore? Think of all the things that we could make with granite blocks making up the decor. Wouldn't it be nice if diorite was more than just a block that we ignore? Wouldn't it be nice if prismarine had smooth variants with some chisel lore? Wouldn't it be nice if that smooth end stone became a block that we all used more? And wouldn't it be nice if there were dripstone variants that we'd collect and use? Wouldn't it be nice if there were calcite in any other forms that we could view? Wouldn't it be nice? Yeah, it would. It'd be real nice. Add a rare solar eclipse event. On average, there would be a 1 in 400 chance during the daytime to have a solar eclipse event. The duration of this event would last between 100 and 400 seconds. Light levels across the world during the event would transition to 0 over the course of 15 seconds as day turned into night. Mobs could spawn during the day during the eclipse, and custom music would also play. Add a red moon event. Similar to the eclipse event, this would be a celestial event, but this time at night. There would be a 1 in 100 chance to have a red moon event where the moon becomes slightly orangish red in color. During this event, night still occurs as normal, except that mobs have a greatly increased chance to have enchanted armor and weapons. Add Tumbleweed to the Badlands biome. Tumbleweed would be a 1x1 block environmental hazard entity which rolls across the Badlands biome occasionally. It would do half a heart of damage to the player if it hits the player regardless of armor. When a rolling tumbleweed hits the player, it grabs the player, making them part of the tumbleweed, spins them around, think the Riptide effect, for 1 second, and then spits them out, with them now standing upright facing a random direction. Tumbleweed can be picked up by the player if right-clicked before it makes contact. Tumbleweed can also be rolled by the player in any direction for 32 blocks across any terrain, except vertically upwards, before disappearing and disintegrating. Tumbleweed will also uproot any crops that it rolls over. You could also craft tumbleweeds with 1 dead bush surrounded by 8 sticks. Add Flowering Cactus. Flowering Cactus is a variant of cactus with cactus fruit growing on it. Like normal cactus, it would still hurt the player if they ran into it, but unlike normal cactus, Flowering Cactus can grow cactus fruit that can be right-clicked to pop the fruit off. The cactus fruit will give similar saturation when eaten to apples. This would provide a food source to the Badlands biome where this flowering cactus would grow. Add Vultures to the Badlands. Vultures would spawn in groups of 1 to 3 in Badlands biomes. Vultures would passively patrol the skies above the Badlands and could land on cactus without being injured. They will also circle above anywhere a player or mob has recently died. They can swoop in to pick up items from dead mobs and store items in their inventory. Their inventory can hold up to 5 stacks of items, but each swoop down, they can only pick up one individual item. Upon death, the vulture drops all inventory items. Flying vultures can be attracted to rotten flesh held by the player, and vultures will drop 1 stack of items in their inventory per rotten flesh given. Vultures are neutral toward the player, but will attack the player or other mobs when damaged. Add Moobloom to the Flower Forest biome. Mooblooms would basically be cows with flowers on their back. They would give a random suspicious stew if right-click with the bull. They could be milked like a normal cow. They'd drop beef and leather when killed, and if sheared, they would turn into a normal cow. They can also be bred with wheat. Add a Chillager Outpost structure. This would be a structure similar to a wizard's or mage tower that spawns in jagged, stony, and frozen peaks biomes. The Chillager Outpost would spawn a new hostile mob, the Chillager. The Chillager would attack a player on sight with magic. The Chillager would spawn an ice cloud of varying size 5 blocks above the player. The cloud size would vary in shape and size, with the max size being 7 by 7 centered upon the player. The ice cloud would then freefall toward the player after being spawned in. If the ice cloud touches the player, they freeze in place for 3 seconds and take up to 4 hearts of freezing damage. Damage would be reduced when wearing leather armor. The ice cloud itself would shatter when it hits the ground. If shot with a bow, the Chillager will return fire by shooting icicles toward the location of the player. This would apply to all players within 32 blocks. Chillagers would have 30 hearts of health and would attempt to spawn every 30 seconds if there was not a Chillager currently within the bounding box of the Chillager Outpost. Within the Chillager Outpost would be 3 unique items. The first unique item would be a rare armor trim. When applied to armor, this would make armor appear to have a layer of frost made of the material you add to it. Number 2 would be a banner pattern of a snowflake entitled Frost. And number 3 would be icicles which drop exclusively from Chillagers themselves upon death. The icicles would look similar to the pointed dripstone and have the same properties, but in a frosty blue color. Add the Kraken mob. The Kraken would be a monster that spawns in the deep ocean biome. Think Mob A from the 2017 Minecon mob vote. It would essentially be a giant squid mob that is about 3 times larger than normal squid. The Kraken would be neutral to players except for when the players damage any aquatic mobs. That includes drowns, cods, salmon, pufferfish, tropical fish, dolphins, squids, guardians, tadpoles, elder guardians, or the Kraken mob itself, at which point it becomes hostile. The Kraken does not become neutral again until either the player dies or the Kraken itself is slain. The Kraken attacks the player by grabbing the player with its tentacles with a melee attack, and will also drag the player downwards quickly into the sea, attempting to do drowning damage. The Kraken has 200 hearts of health, and when killed, drops the heart of the sea. What does the Kraken sound like? It sounds like this. And finally, add some new advancements to the game based upon the items added via the list. Here are a couple which I thought of. It's alive. Deoxidize a copper golem. The rarest sight. Observe an eclipse with a spyglass. Chill, chill, chill. Find a Chillager outpost. Lighting the night. Relocate a cloud of fireflies. It's high noon. Roll a tumbleweed in the Badlands. And with that, everyone, the list has been exhausted. As this is the final episode of the list, please let me know if you have any questions or would like clarification on anything you've seen in this series. I appreciate you watching, and as always, happy crafting.